Welcome to the Nick and Matt Show. Bringing the player interviews you want to hear and the hot topics you want to discuss. Streaming live on the Foundation Podcast YouTube channel, here's Nick and Matt.
Welcome to episode number 40. Nick, that's only 10 away from the big 50. How's it going, man?
Dude, it's going pretty good. That's actually the first time that I've heard our intro kind of sped up. I'm having a little laggy internet problems on my side, so hopefully they won't continue, but it was kind of cool. The beat of the song was a little faster, but no, I'm doing pretty good. It's been a good week.
Awesome. So I'm pretty sure we both got in a tournament experience this past weekend. Go ahead and tell me about yours.
So I played a one-round C-tier flex start over at a course about 15-ish minutes from where I live. And I was able to take it down. I shot a 43 on, it should be a par 54. They call it a par 56, but it's a par 54. So I shot 13 down technically, which was 1037 rated. So I made $90.
All right. That's the pro status there.
Yeah.
Did you happen to see what I got to do this past weekend?
Yeah, you got to play one of my most memorable tournaments at the worst time of the year is what it seemed like, actually.
Well, here, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and put it up so people can enjoy a little bit while we talk through the background here. So for those listening on audio, there's a full-blown, like, nor'easter, also known as a blizzard here. This is Maple Hill you're looking at. This was Friday's round. It was kind of unexpected. It's not typical that you get this much snow, and here's the Sunday round, which, look at that. The major difference between both rounds. Now you're seeing grass and green everywhere, and actually people wearing shorts. So
that's insane.
It was a very, very big difference between the two. Long story short, I shot like a 990 rated first round in that snow. And then I went second round and shot like a 978, which is well above my average. And then I was able to shoot under my rating on the last day. Nick, golds at Maple Hill is tough.
Yeah, no, it most definitely is. I mean, I think two players out of the 140 players finished under par under the gold layout. So it's difficult, no doubt. I shot 5 over the year that I won it.
Okay. Well, I tried hard, Nick. Just to wrap up the kind of tournament experience, I placed top 20 or 20th out of 160 AMs. I was pretty ecstatic about that. That's good for me. But I think, we've talked about this before. Woods golf is different. Maple Hill Golds is a mixture of both. You have to be able to throw really far in open spots and clear water and all that. My arm probably throws about 350, and on a really good best crank I can have, maybe tapping near 400. But that's a big disadvantage to the players who can throw 400, 450, or 500. So anyways, That was my tournament experience. That I wouldn't say that's the highest I've ever finished at this event. I think I had one other time where I had my best, rating ever. But that was, I felt most solid with that one. So congrats to both of us. So I think that means, Nick, is it time?
It's time. I know what you're going to say, and it's time.
We're calling out the Bogey Bros. And I refer to them that way. That's our brother podcast on Foundation Disc Golf Network. We're calling out Hunter and Trevor to a doubles competition. Nick, what do you think? Who would take that down? Us or them?
Us. Yeah, us.
Easily?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Now we take it down. I think it'd be fun to somehow, get one match down here in Virginia. We'll play a neutral course that sets up well for all of us. And then a course in Massachusetts. Obviously, we'll figure out a course that fits well for everyone. And then we just find some random state and do, best out of 3 kind of style.
Wow, we've got to build this up.
It won't take 3 matches, Matt. Don't worry.
Got to build this up. Big media. We need to make this big. Wages, betting.
Yep.
Vegas needs to get involved.
I'll put $500 down on it right now.
Oh, man. So, okay. We're calling them out. We're going to listen to their next show and see if they've actually respond. We'll see what happens. That being said, check out the hat Nick's wearing. Nick and Matt show hat. It's removed our characters, so you don't have to feel that weird about wearing it. But Nick and Matt on the website now. It's actually on foundationdisc.com. And Nick, you can punch in foundationdiscgolf.com and it still goes there. But foundationdisc.com. Cool. There are white versions of that hat. the black version, and then there's like this bluish version. Go check them out.
Yeah.
And Nick, what do we have for someone? If what's the little contest we have on the hats?
So for whoever purchases a hat, if you see Matt or myself, so whether you're in Massachusetts, Virginia, I'll be up in Massachusetts in a few weeks, whether you see one of us wearing the Nick and Matt Show hat, you can go on the Foundation Disc Golf website, pick out a disc you want, send it to me, and I will personally get that disc for you, and then send it to wherever you are.
What a guy.
Pretty much whoever shows us that they are wearing the hat in person, it's got to be in person, you can get a disc from Foundation Disc Golf. I'll personally get it for you.
And I say this at the end of every show. Nick, you're awesome. That's cool.
Try my best.
All right. And then tonight's show lineup is Adam Hammis and Missy Gannon. Totally cool interviews we're about to have. We don't actually have much time, Nick, to recap this, but let's recap. Because we're getting to, I don't know. Let's go ahead and just give a recap here on the MPO. I'll start with the winner here, and then we'll just kind of go back and forth with that. Ricky Wysocki, spoiler, I'm being nice.
Yeah.
I'm being nice. Ricky Wysocki, first place at Jonesboro Open. This was an event that I said was going to be important on the calendar for specific handful of players. Ricky Wysocki stepping up, showing his dominant self here once again. 13 under par first round, Nick. 11 under par second round, 11 under par. Those were averaging 1,069, average 1,069. It tells you he's playing at a very high level over the last 19 rounds. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say someone had posted, I think it's a Twitter account called Disc Golf Stats or something like that. And they posted that in his last like 6 tournaments, he's been averaging over 1065 rated golf. But if you're saying it's 1069.
Well,
here we go.
Here
you
we
said
go.
The last 4 events averaging 1062.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I kind of did a lot of math today, but here's the deal.
Yeah.
His full season average is 1,057. That's higher than he is rated. That's highest rating in a Eagle wasn't even that high as far as like player rating. So we're going to see if he gets there. But yeah, last 4 events, if you just count those, it's averaging 1,062. That's extremely high.
Wild.
And then if you average out his finishes at these Elite Series events, 4th place finish is his average over 6 events. It's pretty high level.
That's crazy.
Storyline here that I'm thinking is
that's really good.
If Ricky's playing his best, Nick, can anyone touch him the rest of the year?
Honestly, the way Ricky's playing right now, he's just consistent with the backhand, the forehand, and the putting stroke looks really good right now. He is... Right now, I would say he's unbeatable, and I shouldn't say unbeatable because everyone gets beat every so often, but he's definitely playing the best out of everyone this year and will consistently probably do that the whole year.
Right. And so I guess my question is, if he plays his best like he is there someone who can beat him? When Paul plays his best, can he beat what Ricky's best is right now? And that's, I think
if they're both playing their absolute best, I think Paul does take it down.
Oh man.
But that's literally both of them playing their absolute best. Yeah, I personally think Paul, obviously we consider him one of the greatest of all time players. And so I think when you do put them both playing their greatest round, Paul does have the edge in that. He has the advantage. But Ricky's right there. I mean, there's no doubt. And I think right now, Ricky is going to play his best right now more often than any other player on tour is at the moment.
We'll talk about that.
He's playing a lot better.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some of that interesting stuff later. But in general, he's playing very well. Tell us about Calvin at this event, Nick.
So Calvin, second place, 13 under par first round, was tied for the lead, obviously, after the first round, and then shot 10 under par, which was 1058 rated, and then a lackluster 8 under par, 1042 rated. So you say that, you still get second place, averaging 1060 rated golf. But let's see, over the last 19 rounds, which is the whole season so far, he's averaging 1052, which at the moment is above his player rating. Same thing by 2 points. The last 4 events, averaging 1052, and he's averaging just a little better than third place so far this year. So Calvin, a name that we're talking about at this point every single week. And you said he wasn't going to get a win all year. So
okay, you rub that in my face. We're definitely going to have Sarah Ho come back on just so you can tell her that you picked her not to win because you chickened out on that one. All right. we're just razzing each other. So here's the interesting thing. Calvin, it was such a bad hot take. It was a stupid hot take. Like I was.
It was very Skip Bayless.
It was just there was no reason for it. Anyways, he's averaging, and it is what it is now. He's averaging the best finishes out of anybody on tour, even Ricky. He's averaging a little better. Like when I did the math, it's 2.8. That's like that's his average finish this year at 6 events. That's incredible. Here's an interesting thing though. Why isn't he winning more like Ricky, right? He has a higher average finish. I saw an interesting interview with Smashbox this week where he literally said he's just content getting in the practice with the putts that come during a practice round. He said he's not spending time on the putting green. And he also said he hasn't put together a good full round tournament yet. And he said it's his putting that he feels like is off. But then he says in that interview that he's not spending time on the putting green because he's just taking the practice rounds as they come. Like, is he not taking it seriously enough? And that's a whole nother topic we'll talk about later. But what do you have?
Well, I was going to say, definitely watching Jonesboro's coverage this week. His putter was definitely, I should say, the worst I've ever seen it. I mean, obviously he's still a phenomenal putter, but he wasn't putting that great this weekend from what I saw. And that obviously cost him, I think within the first 2 holes, he could have gone birdie, ended up going par. And had he nailed both of those, he's tied for the lead or even has a one stroke advantage in the lead, starting right off the bat in this final round. So it's kind of hard to tell whether we think he's being lazy with it, because some people just practice differently. And obviously Calvin's such a phenomenal player that his practice up to this point has obviously gotten him very far in the sport. He's an incredible player. So I wouldn't say, Calvin, you got to go spend an hour a day practicing putting and everything like that. Honestly, just a bad weekend, I think. Yeah.
But let me ask you, and again, this is a topic for later, so let's not get too deep into it. So let me just send this out there, maybe with no response, and we'll just move on. But is Paul practicing his putts outside of a practice round? Is Ricky practicing his putts outside of a practice round? Are they taking it seriously enough? Are other players? It was just a little bit shocking to hear Calvin say that. That's all. All right. Eagle McMahon, 3rd place. I wouldn't say he's back. I mean, he's back as good as he is, but after we saw LVC, we thought maybe we'd see a lot more of this. So to see 3rd is like, ooh, we're happy. Eagle's back. Like, it's a little surprising, but 10 under par, 8 under par, 10 under par, 28 under par, averaged 1,052 rated golf. That's pretty much his rating right now. It's a little better than his rating.
Just a little over.
So I just feel like if there's any storyline here, obviously we know that he can still compete, but is he the dominant force we thought he was after LVC, the very first event of the year? What do you think? I mean, is it kind of like maybe this is the Eagle we're going to get from here on out? It's just average, top 5, top 10.
Yeah, so there was obviously talks a few weeks back about some injury that he has going on. I don't know if it's with his back or his hips or whatever, but he's got something going on to where he's not carrying a bag. He's actually using, I think, a Zuka cart at the moment. And I think he also, so he has that injury lingering, which is obviously super frustrating because when you have an injury, you're obviously not going to play the best that you can play. And with that comes the frustrations and kind of like the mental lapses in judgment, whether it's disc selection or even just getting angry on the course. Like there's, a moment that I saw where, I don't know what the cart did to him, but he went and kicked his cart over after throwing OB on a hole. I think about it, I just laugh right now because it's actually kind of a funny moment. But you can definitely tell he's frustrated with how he's playing. He's frustrated with decisions that he's making on the course. And I don't want to say this is what we're going to see out of him the whole year, but if there is a lingering injury and he doesn't take the time off that he needs to, then yeah, potentially we're going to see a top 5, top 6 Eagle contending at every single event, but just not pushing for the win if the injury stays.
Those Discmania boys, Simon and Eagle, they need to take that time to heal. Eagle and Simon talk regularly. I'm sure they've had conversations about that. All right, moving on. Finally,
They got Casey covering them right now. He's doing great.
We'll talk about Casey later. Moving into a notable finish, and I say notable because this is one of the names that I kept saying was important to see at Jonesboro. What would happen here? There was a couple names. It was Kevin Jones. It was Eagle. It was Paige Pierce. Honestly, it was Paul Macbeth. Those were kind of my top 4 that I said, let's watch what happens at Jonesboro. Well, good job, Kevin Jones. You got a 4th place finish. This is his best finish yet at a Pro Tour or an NT. 4th place. Storyline here, Nick. Is this a glimmer of hope? And I say glimmer because he knows, he said this in a press conference, the DGPT press conference, that his timing is off. And when he fixed and worked on his timing, his putting was off. So he's saying they're not coming together. I'm not sure what changed for him between last year and this year, but he is saying, I'm not saying it's a made up excuse, but he has an excuse for why. He has a reason for why. Yeah. He says he's working on it, and he feels like, and this is any good pro athlete would say this, that he feels like he's in the mix every single week where he could win it. He has the ability to do it. But is this a glimmer of hope for the rest of the season? What do you think about this 4th place finish for him?
I think it's obviously a step in the right direction. I think mentality-wise, it's going to be a big boost for him. He was able to shoot tied for the hot round, the final round, push his way up there into the 4th place. So, yeah, I think obviously he knows he can compete with everyone out on the tour. And, yeah, I think this was a little bit of a glimmer of hope for him in the sense of he can still go out there and compete once he fixes everything, once he gets the timing down with his putt, his drives, his forehands, whatever. He'll be back up top.
All right. We have a short amount of time here, Nick, so we're going to condense it a little bit, but we're going to bring some of these topics up after our interview with Missy. But let's get right to it. Katrina Allen, averaging 1,007. We bring the average ratings in here because it's important to show their play level at an event, because we don't fully understand how easy or hard a course can play. The number helps us. 1,007. She shot as hot as 1,041. That's incredible.
That's insane. Yeah.
And so congrats to her, dominant. In fact, just that round 2 was just incredible. She's been averaging this season alone 973 over all of her rounds. 973. Nick, that's getting very close to what Paige Pierce is averaged as like a player rating right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to come up. Do we feel like she could be the next highest rated player? Can she surpass Paige this year? That's definitely a storyline to watch. And then finally, in her post-round interview, she talks about like ice baths or ice showers or whatever it is, where she says she's training her mind to stay quiet. That's obviously been something for her. Mental game is huge. We're going to talk about that later. We got a lot of topics lined up later.
Yeah.
But congrats to her with that win. Nick, what did you see important from Paige Pierce this weekend?
From Paige Pierce, obviously coming back and shooting, second place? So 7 under par, 994 first round, 1 under par, 952 second round, 1,009 last round. So averaging 985. It's obviously incredible golf that is above her rating at the moment. Kind of started out the season really hot, obviously kind of slowed down a little bit. She's averaging 965 over the full season so far. And that's right where her competitors, Katrina, Haley, Sarah, and a couple others are right at that 960-ish area. So competition's obviously getting a little more condensed in the FPO. We've talked about it. I talked about it with the foundation guys on the little recap thing that we did. And I mean, FPO, you can't tell who's going to win a tournament right now. But to be honest with Katrina, if she's putting the way that she is right now, she's going to dominate the FPO division.
Yeah. It's Paige Pierce has been a topic this whole year. I don't want to be a broken record because we aren't going to just talk constantly about, oh, what's up with Paige Pierce? What's going on with Paige Pierce? Like, I don't want to say it gets old when news starts to develop beyond just the wondering. But let me put this out here. Storyline, right? She recently made another social post that I thought was intriguing. It says she's trying to find and remember the reason, and here it is, quote unquote, she fell in love with the sport in the first place, which tells me, and I'm speculating here, Nick, tells me that she's burnt out. She burned out, whether it was the off season. I don't want to say she got sick of winning because who does that? But like, it was this level where it's like, why do I have this drive? Why am I doing this? All of this work. It's kind of like Nick. I used to do photography for 7 years. It was originally a hobby. I did it. I was like, I can make money out of this. And then I burnt out. I was like, I don't like photography anymore because it turned into work. Do you think there's any relation to that here, Nick? For Paige
I think
Pierce?
definitely. I mean, I think one of the toughest things as a touring disc golfer is they have to go through the constant travel, the constant driving to the next event, flying to the next event. you don't really have a home base for, let's say, 7 months out of the year. And then for a couple months, you either, if you're from the north, you're trying to get down south and practice disc golf during the off season. If your family's all up north, you never get to see them. So I think if you're a family person and then into the disc golf world, you're going to struggle in that nomadic lifestyle of you're going everywhere and anywhere. I think that's definitely going to affect people within, 5, 7, 8, 9 years of playing. And Paige has been touring full time since 2010 or 2009, maybe 2011 when she won Worlds her first time. So 10 plus years of consistently being at the top and being one of the female faces in the disc golf world. Yeah, I definitely think that added pressure mentally just exhaust you.
Yeah, and we've seen that out of players like Simon before at the end of the year, just being like, I don't want to play anymore. Not like forever, but like I'm done with it. So
yeah, exactly. Take a little time off.
All right. So finally, as we have our first interview in the green room, let me just wrap up with the third place finish here at Jonesboro. Sarah Hokum, third place. Here's how it played out: 7 under par. That was good. Just barely, almost 1,000 rated. 3 under par, and then a 3 under par. In a row, average 980. My storyline before we get right into this interview is Sarah finding her world champion form again? She's really just demonstrated the last few events. Not that she's been playing bad, but man, she's really up there. And maybe it's comparison to how Paige has been playing, but like she's now competing on an average level with Paige and Katrina. And obviously we have a whole bunch of other players in the mix, but I mean, are we going to see more out of Sarah? It seems hopeful. So,
yeah, I think definitely. Obviously, with her backhand developing in a positive direction, we're definitely going to see more from Sarah.
All right, everybody. Without further ado, our first guest of the night, Missy Gannon, all the way from wherever she is. I know her profile says New York. I think it says Beacon, New York. Where are you calling us from tonight, Missy?
I am somewhere in Missouri. Not quite sure where. So we just kind of pulled off to a rest area and decided to join you guys.
Nice. We appreciate it. Definitely.
Yeah, that's excellent.
It's always such a funny way of getting guests on. It's just like, oh, by the way, you're probably gonna have to pull over for like 20 minutes so you can do this interview really quick. But no, we appreciate you taking time out of your drive. You've probably been driving all day. You're ready to get into Missouri for the next tournament that is happening, the Mid-America Open. But we appreciate you coming on. We got some questions for you now.
Yeah. So, Missy, I think the first time, and I don't know if you'll remember this, but the first time I met you was on a ferry trip over to Nantucket. Okay. Okay. You're nodding your head. That's for our listeners. She's in agreement. Good. We're on the same page. And I remember, so that was my introduction to who you were. Like, I was just meeting another disc golfer is what that was. You and your boyfriend at the time. And I was just like, hey, who are you? But I feel like now you've demonstrated a lot of your skills on a pretty large scale. Media, you've had a lot of attention over the last year, changing sponsors, all of that. What do you see as your biggest improvement from when you started in the beginning over the past few years, where you've really come to create your own person, I guess, in the disc golf world? Like, people know who you are. What is it? What's happened like over since you started till now?
Yeah. And actually, when I met you on that ferry ride, that was my first real start of tour. I had just gone on tour, I think that year in June, and then Nantucket was a month or two later. So yeah, I since then, I mean, that was just crazy, and I am so happy that I was able to get out on tour back then. But yeah, since then, I think it's just getting comfortable with everything, right? Like, it's not just being comfortable with your skills, and those will develop, and those were there, but obviously needed some refinement. But I think a big part of being able to make it on tour and maybe make a name for yourself is just being comfortable out there, and trying to block out some of those negative thoughts of am I supposed to be here? Like, am I good enough to be out here? So I think just honestly kind of getting more comfortable and more confident, and then, making friends and having people that you can tour with, or all of those things sort of go into being a touring professional, and definitely kind of cross over into how you perform ultimately, because I think you just there's so many things you have to think about touring around the country and trying to make money and trying to survive and exist out here, that it just takes some time to get comfortable, and that definitely helps.
Wow.
So your average tournament finish is 6th place so far this season. So very notable feat. Absolutely. Did you set any goals for the 2021 season in regards to your performance or placements? And how does the start of the season leave you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I think last year, being what a crazy year it was, and having pretty much a full disc golf pro tour, after we took a break, and then I came back out and I ended up with my highest finish at the DD Open, placing second, and then followed that up with a 3rd place at the Preserve. It sort of was like a weird kickstart for me, I guess. And so, my expectations started to raise, and I started to think like, okay, well, I should be able to do top 5 every time, which maybe was a little bit unrealistic at the time, but it at least made me feel like, okay, well, then top 10 every time should be feasible. And so far, so good with that trend. But yeah, so I think yeah, just trying to be as close to top 5 as possible, but I'm obviously going to be okay with a consistent top 10 finish, and I obviously want to win something this year, so that was a goal of just winning either a pro tour, maybe a national tour, which I was in the mix at Texas State's, and then a major would be great, but I'll try to keep my expectations in check.
A true competitor there. So definitely putting is one of your strong suits. And I think a lot of people know you for that. I don't know, like you got kind of branded that way. Like you're a great putter. You won a championship title in putting. So obviously I think you probably set that as one of your strongest skills. Do you think that is your strongest skill, putting?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it's definitely, I kind of felt like I lost it for a moment towards the end of last year. I don't know. It must have just been confidence. But I definitely feel like that anytime I'm stepping up to anything within 60 feet, I feel like I'm going to make every single one of them. And I don't, but I think just having that confidence stepping up to any putt, I feel like anything within the circle, I'm like, I expect myself to make. And then circle 2, I've been making a few every tournament, and I think that if I can build on that, it'll definitely help out. So yeah, putting is definitely something that I focus on the most, because I think that that's where a lot of tournaments are won or lost. And I think that's probably the most important skill for anybody to have.
For sure. Did you say
absolutely.
60 feet? Anything inside of 60 you feel like you're going to make?
Mhm.
Okay.
I do. I tell myself I can, because I know I can, and then I'm running most of them, and obviously dependent on the green and in the situation. But I'm going to run pretty much everything
Wow.
inside circle 2.
Can you tell us what you would list as your second strongest skill in disc golf if putting is your first? Like, where do you feel like you excel behind that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's only really two other options. It's either my upshots or my drives, and my upshots are struggling at the moment. So I do find myself inside circle 2 a lot more than I want to. But yeah, I think that driving, getting off the tee pretty clean has been my second strongest suit. I think that I'm just really comfortable with a lot of my distance drivers, and for the most part, I'm gonna just stick with what I'm comfortable with. So yeah, I think getting off the tee is probably the second.
What do you think it would take for you to bring home that win that you're talking about this year? What do you think you need to work on the most?
Yep, definitely the upshots. There were even in Jonesboro. I wasn't obviously in contention to win by the 3rd round, but there was a women's national championship spot that was available, and I was right on the cusp of that. And I think that there were some notable upshots that I needed to put closer, and that's definitely the struggle right now.
Yeah.
So it's a struggle, but you also talk hopefully, and maybe you're just saying it more with like dream than hope, but like, hey, it'd be nice to win a major or like an NT or something. But like, besides working on your upshot, do you feel like it's really there? It's attainable for you this year. Do you feel like it is?
I do, and I think that so many of us are in the mix nowadays. We've seen so many women that have been around, that are capable of, anybody's capable of winning any weekend. So I don't count myself out. I want to be in that mix, and I hope to put myself there. And at least if I'm still, whether it's fighting for a spot for the women's national championship, or if it's fighting for first place, like any battle like that is going to help me, and hopefully that would be for a championship at some point.
Mm-hmm. Kind of going back really quick on your upshots, what do you feel like is wrong right now? Are you more of a predominant forehand or backhand upshot player?
I'm mostly backhand. I think that it's sort of, I'm not gauging distances well. So either I'm throwing too far past the basket, or I'm throwing short, or my angles are wrong. Just definitely that depth perception seems to be off right now. And I do use a rangefinder. I think I have to do more work in the field to actually understand what those ranges mean for me. What disc is it? Also taking into account elevation, and so I think it's just dialing in those smaller sort of details of all of the factors and trying to figure out how to dial that in.
Is there a certain footage that you're comfortable, like let's say 250 feet and in, or 150 feet and in? Like, where does it kind of start getting into that more negative side of it?
Yeah, I think it is right within like 250. I think that out at Jonesboro, that's a relatively wide open course, and they have those 250 markers out there on some of the holes, and so I could kind of get a sense for where I was, and it seems like every time I was right around that 250 mark or just within is when it made me comfortable knowing that that's where I was, but then I just wasn't quite putting the disc where I needed to from those distances. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
Can I ask, and this has always been something of a topic that I've brought up over the past year or two, even, is disc golf is getting to such a place where like trainers are becoming a thing. And realistically, I don't know very many pros who would say they have a coach, maybe a little bit physical, athletic trainer type thing. But like when you're talking about like, hey, and this is true for anybody, I'm not just picking on you, but like, where are you learning like, hey, I'm throwing the wrong angle? Is it just by experience and you're learning it on your own? Or is there someone that is mentoring you and coaching you? I know you've hung out with Paige Pierce quite a bit, one of the best in the game. Where are you learning to get better? Like, is this on your own?
Yeah, mostly on my own. I mean, I do have my fiance and caddy and, touring partner with me, Tom, who also plays. And so being able to sort of see, he's able to kind of take notes on how I'm, what I'm doing. So even during a tournament, if he sees like, okay, yeah, I threw my Undertaker great on this angle at this distance, whatever, he's able to sort of give me some feedback too. But I do practice a lot with Paige. Obviously she has a much farther throwing arm than I do, and so for her, if I see that she's throwing maybe a mid-range, maybe for me that means it's a fairway driver. And so there is some takeaway from practicing with her. I can kind of take a little bit of notes from watching her play and sort of try to translate it into my game.
Yeah. So have you played Beacon Glades disc golf? Is that nearby where you're from?
Yeah.
So
yes.
It's funny because again, I do a little bit of research. We found out, hey, we're getting Missy tonight. So I looked real quick. You're from Beacon, New York, or at least your profile says that. I've played Beacon Glades. It's obviously very wooded course. Can I ask, coming from New York, because I'm also from New England, Nick's from New England, New England native, moved to Virginia. Correct. It's a lot of wooded courses, not very much open. Out on tour, do you find yourself like loving getting back into wooded courses? Do you like the open golf courses? Like, what's your preference when it comes to courses?
Yeah, I like every kind of course, but definitely I am partial to the wooded courses. I think that it sort of levels the playing field in a way. Obviously, you still have to be on your mark, and wooded courses definitely, you have to be able to throw some forehands or backhands, or just at least know your angles really, really well. But I do feel like I feel a little more focused in the woods. I have to sort of get tunnel vision because we're literally throwing in tunnels. But I think that helps me a lot. I think that maybe part of my struggle with my upshots, especially at Jonesboro, was that I didn't have a lot of those physical things out on the course to sort of gauge where I'm throwing or what the distances were. I think I do struggle a little bit in the wide open, but yeah, I'm definitely a woodsy golfer.
That's funny. Just as a follow-up to that, Nick, and I'll let you comment, is my son Hunter absolutely loves the woods. He actually says out loud to me, Dad, I like it because I can see lines. Like that's, and so it's harder in the open. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I was pretty much going to agree with that. I think throwing upshots in the woods, it kind of gives you like this, okay, that tree to the right of the basket is only 20 feet away. So I know if I get to that tree, I'm inside the circle. When I'm out at a tournament, say like Vegas or something, and you're throwing in the wide open, I'm like, I think I'm 350 feet away, so I think I need to throw this, but I guess I was 420. I don't know. But so, yeah, I definitely think that the woods, especially if you grew up playing in the woods, is just such a fun atmosphere to be in. And I like courses that obviously have a mixture of both, but for the most part, full on woods is where I like to play. But you changed your bag over to Discraft. Was it 2020 when you first originally joined Discraft?
Oh my gosh. Yes, it was.
Okay. So 2020, who were you sponsored by before?
Dynamic Discs.
Okay, cool. So you went from DD to Discraft. And on a scale 1 to 10, how comfortable do you feel now? It's been almost 2 years of playing for them. How comfortable do you feel with the Discraft discs?
Extremely comfortable, especially my bag. And actually, there's a ton of molds that I still haven't even tried, but it's almost just, for me, not even worth it at the moment because I do feel like I have everything I need, and it's been working out pretty well for me. So I don't think 1 or 2 discs changing it up would really do much for me. So yeah, I'm very comfortable. Probably definitely a 10.
Yeah. So besides the Missy Gannon Undertaker, because I know that'd be your first answer, what is your favorite disc from Discraft?
It is definitely the Thrasher. I throw it. Okay. I threw it at Jonesboro pretty much exclusively off the tee. So it is my go-to driver. I have a couple of different stabilities, and for me, they're just exactly what I need off the tee.
So now say I'm someone who has absolutely no idea what a Thrasher is. Can you describe the flight of it?
Yeah, I believe it's like a 12-speed distance driver. And for me, I have a couple that they'll flip up to flat and then hyzer out to the left. But for the most part, they're my big distance driver. So I'm looking for that big S turn out of them. So yeah, they're. I've just found that they're perfect stability for me, and I can kind of manipulate them however I want.
And then another big question kind of on top of that is, what is your putter of choice?
It is the Challenger SS.
Okay, nice. Yeah. I putted with those before Lunas came out. They're an awesome feel. And then just, I love dead straight putters. So kind of going on to the now Undertaker, which I said you weren't allowed to say, but tell us about the Undertaker. That is your chosen disc for your tour series. Can you give people who might not know what they fly like, kind of like a little gauge on that?
Yeah, honestly, I think the reason why I like them so much is because they're almost sort of like a slower Thrasher in a way. They're pretty neutral. Some of the tour series are more overstable, so they will hook to the left on a backhand line. But for the most part, you can kind of manipulate them however you want. You can put them on any angle, and they won't turn and burn, but they also, won't be too overstable. So again, pretty neutral, and it's a nice feeling, pretty small rim. It's a fairway driver. It's like an 8 or 9 speed. I honestly, I don't really look at the numbers that much. So for me, it's just how they feel, how they fly.
Totally hear you. Yep.
Yeah. And so the Undertaker was available, and I was already throwing it when I was, testing everything out. And it was definitely the choice for me.
They say
very cool.
They say the less you know about flight numbers, the better you are at disc golf. So you must be pretty good.
People ask me all the time. They're like, "What's this mean?" I'm like, I know one's a speed. I
Don't
know
even worry about it.
Fade, I think, but I don't know which ones they are.
Right.
So Missy, we loved having you on tonight. Thank you so much for answering our message to have you come on. It's honestly,
Definitely, no problem.
yeah, it's honestly, we want to help promote all of your efforts. We want to promote everyone's efforts. And sometimes it's just tough getting people on the show because it's just Nick and Matt. I mean, we're just the Nick and Matt show.
Exactly.
But so how can the people support you? Is it through purchasing discs? Is there other ways to do it? And then how can they follow you and what you're doing on your tour?
Yeah, so mostly tour series discs. You can find some on the factory store at Discraft. Also, I know a bunch were sent out to retailers, so your local retailer might have a Gannon Undertaker, the new 2021 series. And then I also have some custom Challenger SSs in ESP plastic over at otbdiscs.com. They're super cool. They're a great company trying to help out a lot, and they're actually going to run a tournament later in the year in actually a few weeks. So yeah, out in Stockton, California. So yeah, hit up any one of those to get some discs to support me. And then you can follow me on Instagram at Missy_disc golf. And then also on Facebook, I think it's at Missy Disc Golf. So yeah.
Very cool. And then any other sponsors you want to give a shout out really quick?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Discraft and grip equipment for my bags. We also have OTB discs, obviously, and then Whale Sacks.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Well, Missy,
yeah, Nick and I are both so excited to say
the same thing, Matt.
What dorks we are. So we really enjoyed having you on. Obviously, you're pulled over here, but safe travels to you and good luck at the next event, Missy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a blast. Thank you.
All right. Talk
easy.
to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, everybody. That was Missy Gannon, a world champion putter, and obviously much more than that, averaging better than top 10 at most of these events, or averaging better than top 10, I should say. Nick, did anything stand? I have something that stood out to me, but I'm just curious what your opinion is in that interview. What stood out to you?
Well, obviously, I like the confidence she has into where she thinks like she's going out there and she's competing for the win. And that's what she wants. Like those are goals of hers, is to go out and actually do that. Once she fine tunes her game a little bit more, that's where she thinks she will be at that. And I definitely think she's capable of doing it, especially with the parity of disc golfers. She even said it herself, like the competition is so close this year and she's been in contention to win certain tournaments. And so now she's just full on working to get to that spot.
Yeah, I actually, it stood out to me as well. That was the same exact thing. I had to even follow up. I was like, are you saying that, you feel like you could win a major this year? Or do you feel like an NT is there in your future? And she's like, more or less, she kind of says, yeah, I have to, which.
Yeah, exactly.
You do. Here's the takeaway. Any of these top level pro athletes, top 20, top 30, and depending MPO, there's more talent. Let me rephrase that. There's more players, which means that there's going to be, you have to play harder to be at the top. That being said, it's the talent at the FPO with Paige, Katrina, those two at the top. It's been so hard for anybody else to get wins in. As she mentioned, Missy mentioned this, we're starting to see a lot more parity at the top, which makes her, and this is another takeaway, Nick. Do you think the FPO field is like, this is my time? It just gives them a little bit more hope. Like we're seeing a lot more movement.
Yeah, I definitely think this is the time for all of them to capitalize. Right now, we don't have one single dominant player in the FPO division. So I think for every single other FPO player, they should be thinking like, hey, this is my time to shine. This is my time to get on those feature cards. This is my time to get on the live coverage and everything like that. So yeah, 100% think that Missy will be up there. I 100% think that there's a lot of FPO players who are slowly going to keep creeping in and out of those cards.
Yeah, so we're just about to move into our second interview of the evening. We're going to be bringing in Adam Hammes. In fact, I think he's ready. We're ready. It's going to be good to talk to him again. Let me go ahead and bring him in here. Adam Hammes, Team Discraft performing fairly high level this year. How's it going, man? And where are you calling us from?
It's going good. I am actually already in Emporia at the RV park, so me and Jeff just rolled in.
Oh, dang. You're going to DDO early.
Yep, got to get that practice in.
Yeah, I heard they switched it up to 2 courses this year. I didn't know that actually just until today.
Yeah. I mean, how do you feel about that 2 courses? That wasn't even a question, but I mean, 2 courses is always better. Is that how you see it?
Usually I like 1, but I think for this tournament, having another course is kind of exciting. I have heard good things about Jones, so excited to see it and play on it. So
awesome.
So do you like playing out there?
I've played the country club, but I've never played Jones. Is it Jones East, right? Jones Gold, sorry.
Jones Gold.
I've actually never even been there, so it'll be new to see this week. So that's why I'm kind of skipping Mid-America and then coming here just so I can get that extra practice on the new course. So
did the potential weather warnings creep you away from Mid-America and push you towards Emporia, or were you already planning on going out there early?
We planned on coming to DDO early. Mid-America, I went last year and it was rainy and muddy, and I love the course to death, but I just rather have the practice for an Elite Series versus the Silver Series. So that's why we made the decision that way.
So
yeah, absolutely.
It probably wouldn't be very professional interview, but if Jeff Corns was just like sitting on the back of that couch, just like with his head propped up on his arm, like it would just be like, there's Jeff Corns. He's in the back of so many videos and so many.
Yep.
There's his bodyguard. It's his Adam Hammis' bodyguard or something. Like, yeah, okay. I heard him in the background there. So Adam, first of all, good to talk to you again. Last year, obviously, events and things got changed up. We didn't get to see you last year up here in my neck of the woods. But you're coming off of back-to-back 5th place finishes at Disc Golf Pro Tour events. You're averaging 16th place in general over the past 5 events. That's pretty good. Top 20 finishes at any event seems to be pretty good nowadays. How do you feel about your performance so far in the season?
I mean, the first 2 turns of the year were obviously great. I went back-to-back wins to start. And then, once we got into Texas, it wasn't wide open hyzer golf anymore. And I think trying to hit a line and a gap was a little bit difficult because it was the first time I got to play in the woods and, the whole off season. So I struggled for the first few events. I mean, Waco and Texas States. And then I just kind of put it into gear. I was like, all right, you got to grind, dude. So like started putting like crazy and just like playing as much as I could. Me and Ezra spent a week and a half together and we played like 2 rounds a day, putted until dark almost every single night. And I just wanted to get my game back up. And then I went into vintage and had a good showing. It was pretty solid. Could have did a little bit better. And then Jonesboro, I was pretty confident coming into it and pretty happy with how I finished at Jonesboro. So
yeah, it was definitely a great finish at Jonesboro, and obviously some tweaks you made because within 54 holes, you only had 3 bogeys at the whole event. Mm-hmm. 28 different birdies throughout the 3 rounds. Is this what it's going to take to elevate your game to that next level? Do you envision yourself winning an Elite Series event this year?
Some of the biggest problems for me out there is bogeys. I mean, if you go back to like vintage Texas States and Waco, I mean, I just have too many bogeys, and then you just not getting enough birdies to make up for it. So I think for me, if I can just minimize the bogeys right now and then just stay confident and keep making putts, I mean, I'm not guaranteeing myself win an Elite Series event, but I think if I can stay consistent as I am right now, I think maybe one week and I'll just pop off and, we'll see where it goes from there. So,
yeah, you've got the skills, and I think we've heard other players talk about just being able to pop off. I mean, I'm not doing that, but you guys are able to do that, and I think any given week you can do that. People in the chat right now are pretty much just going on and on about Circle 2 putting and how Adam Hammis is probably our best Circle 2 putter we've ever had on the show. So is putting considered one of you? I mean, people consider it your strongest skill. Do you feel like that's true for you, where putting's the strongest part of your game? And then if so, just follow it up with what you think the second strongest part of your game is.
Yeah, putting is without a doubt the strongest part of my game. It's what I work on the most. If I'm not doing field work, I'm putting. So just trying to get my putt like where I feel it's comfortable, and when I feel it's comfortable, then I'll start making a lot of putts. Yeah, that's basically the strongest part. And then like the second strongest part would maybe be like not off the tee. I'm pretty weak off the tee at times. Maybe like sidearm, like overstable discs, like Raptors. I think my sidearm is pretty solid. It was really good at Jonesboro, so I was pretty happy with that.
And what are you putting with now?
I'm putting with Putterline Hard focuses.
Okay.
Got a little shipment in from the factory, and they've been working out really good.
I wanted to follow up
You
real
kinda-
quick because I earlier said, you only had a certain amount of average finishes and your average is 16th. I don't want to take away from those victories that you did have. We were just counting the Pro Tour and the NTs. But
Okay.
yeah, so good job to you for sure with those wins in there. If we throw those in the average, now you're averaging probably closer to that 10th place finish at the events that you've competed in. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Touring full time for you, Adam. You're doing it. You're in an RV now. What's that like? What's the best part about it? And definitely, what's the hardest part about it?
There's not too many bad parts about it. It's been great. Been with Jeff. It's been a blast. We've been bonding, having great times, just laughing, having a great time. All the practice rounds have been great. Tournament's been fun. I mean, it's great. I mean, the RV life on the road. Minimal thoughts. Companies are taking care of me and stuff like that. So it's just me going out there and trying to play to the best of my ability. And I think this year it's really going to help, and it's going to be my best potential to do something big. So it's been
Is
great.
this your first year being in an RV or being in this position of where you're hitting literally every single Elite Series event, every event that you can possibly play? Is this the first year that you're doing this?
Yeah, I did before COVID, 2019. I think I went to almost all the Pro Tours, maybe a couple, but this is the first year I'll be at almost every single Elite Series event, all the NTs and all the Pro Tours. So, and then like one consistent tour line across the country in the RV. So,
yeah. Were you planning
going-
anything overseas before like European Open got canceled?
Yep. So we had Sula planned and we had European Open planned, and it's just unfortunate that the pandemic has sprung up over there and we can't make it over there, which I understand, but things happen.
Yep.
Interesting. Did you find yourself, because I wasn't down there, did you find yourself at Jonesboro having fans follow your card and or ask for pictures, autographs? What was the feeling difference between the rest of the events you've played this year?
Jonesboro was like the first tournament where it like actually felt good to like be there. Like, I mean, not in a negative way, but like in the past, but like the camaraderie from all the fans and like just the energy the fans bring, it makes a disc golf tournament. Like it is just not the same without them. And just to have them back there and just hearing the claps across the course and the cheers, it makes the whole tournament is just that much better. I think it honestly helped my play. Just the cheers, people clapping for me on hole one, stuff like that. It's just, it's a really good like mental thing to have. Like it's just nice to have people cheer for you, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's, and not to take away from Adam here, but I think that's why Simon actually has been milking his injury for so long. He only likes to play for the cheers. Simon,
I don't blame him.
If Simon's listening right now, I love you, bro. All right. Now I'm off track. So I'm going to go back to 2019, and it's going to come off as a little bit negative, and everyone's going to say, Matt, you're the most negative guy on the show every week. You always ask these stupid questions, but there was a quote unquote cameraman incident back in 2019. Okay. I've met you since then, but when I saw that the first time, I said, you can't do that. Like I was thinking to myself, and from my perspective, social media, backlash, outlash, the whole thing. You came to Maple Hill. I hung out with you, and I honestly was kind of skeptical just because of that. But I hung out with you and total, all the way flipped 180 the other direction. You're playing disc golf with my son. We're having a good time. Your personality's great. You're a likable guy. You like board games, the whole 9 yards. Can I ask though, after that quote unquote media event and that social media backlash, like what did that have as an effect on you? Obviously it was early into your disc golf career. How did that affect you as an athlete?
I mean, the hate and the things that came from that were definitely hard to like swallow at first, but it's just something I had to apologize for and just move on. I mean, it affected me at the beginning. I didn't really let me affect me too much, so I don't know. It's hard. I really thought about it too much. It's kind of happened so long ago, but
I just brought it back up. He's like, I'm suppressing those memories, Matt. Now but I just think, things like that actually shape us. And I'm just curious, like, you haven't thought of it is what you're saying, but like, and I'm not even saying, did you apologize or not? I'm just saying, like, in general, like, do people now that are getting to know you, does anybody ever feel like, do you feel like there's negative repercussions from what happened then still? Or do you feel like there's nothing?
I feel like the people who haven't met me might have something like to say something different. But I mean, if you've met me and you've hung out with me, like I feel like, you know, that I'm not like this bad person.
Exactly.
Like, I feel like some of the things like that situation, there's been a lot of times where people have like made me out to be like unlikable and like have this negative perspective of me. And it kind of like hurts like sitting back because like that's not who I am. I'm not out there. I don't have bad intentions for anyone. I don't have any like, I want everyone to do good. I'm not here to like be the guy no one likes. You know what I mean? So like, it kind of hurts a little bit, but like it's nothing too much.
Well, thank you for sharing.
At the same time with that, I think at the same time with that, it's, you know, everyone makes mistakes, and that was a small mistake on the cameraman's part, on your part, but like there are a million things that you could have done way worse in life. And like for pushing a camera aside, if anyone's to like depict you as this evil, awful person because you pushed a camera, like they're just Sally's.
Hold on. It's the social media generate, and we're in it. Adam's in the social media. Nick, you are. I am. Like every week, Adam, no joke, and we're gonna get it now because I'm bringing it up. People are like, oh, Matt, you have the weirdest beard lineup ever. Matt, you need to stop talking. Like you have the worst talk show host. Like Nick, get rid of Matt. Like it's just where we are. And now I'm gonna get a whole bunch of sarcastic comments right now live. But like that's what I was talking about for you is the social media backlash. Because honestly, like again, meeting you in person, it's just totally different. So I just wanted to have that opportunity on the show, not to bring up bad vibes, but so that everybody could hear from my mouth to the tens of thousands of people who hear this. Adam is a tremendous guy, and I'm so glad he came on the show and was even willing to say what he's learned from that. So that's my piece on it. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, guys.
So we had two players now who I think both of you guys the same year switched over to Discraft. You were an Inaba sponsor player before. Funny enough, actually, the first time that I saw you in person was 2017 Worlds, when I think going into the final round, you were second place. And you were, you know, obviously younger back then, pretty young kid coming out and just killing the Worlds tournament. Transitioning now into Discraft. You've been with them for a few years now, just about 3 years. How has that been? How's the transition? How's the Discraft lifestyle? And tell us about your signature series disc.
The transition from Inaba to Discraft was at first like the hardest decision I've ever had to make. But as soon as I made it, and then once I started getting comfortable, I knew it was the best decision I've ever made. So, you know, Discraft's just been incredible. I really don't want to be anywhere else. The transition was easy. The discs are incredible. Discraft for life, you know.
Nice.
And then what was that second one? I'm sorry, Nick.
Just talk about your signature series discs and also just kind of like switching over into the lineup in general. Like what are things like if I'm a new player, never heard of you before, saw that you switched to Discraft, you know, what are you throwing that you like?
So yeah, my Tour Series discs is for the last 2 years have been the Wasp, the Tour Series Wasp. It's an overstable mid-range. It's got a beat on it. You can hammer it flat and get consistent fade. And I like it in the wind. I was throwing it at Vintage a lot. I think it was hole 12. I was throwing it. I was getting my birdies with that. So if you're looking for an overstable mid in the wind that holds straight and then still flies like a buzz when it's dead calm, definitely try out one of my Wasps. And then, yeah.
So let me ask this question. I think you commented or shared a social post that I had made of when I did a 3D printed Settlers of Catan. Is that a game that you like to play while on tour?
Oh, definitely. We have 2 sets in here right now, actually. Yeah, we play pretty consistent. We play at Terry Roethlisberger all the time, and try to get the boys in here and play some Catan. You know, it gets heated sometimes.
I was going to say, it's good that you guys are all still friends. I mean, that game is, you know, it's frustrating at times.
Table's almost been flipped a few times, but we always make the loser pick up, or the winner pick up, so the losers feel a little bit better. You know?
Oh, okay, that's not bad.
Oh man, do you play with all the expansion packs and that kind of stuff, or do you just keep it pretty basic?
We usually just play the basic board. I have played expansion packs in the past, but it just gets a little too much for some people who haven't played, and usually we're playing with someone who hasn't played. So
All right.
Try to explain it in the simplest way.
I agree. And that's for someone like me. So I decided to do the largest 3D printed project ever of my life, like 300 hours of printing. And you are totally invited. And I know I already did this on social media, but now I'm talking to you. You're invited when you're back up here in Maple Hill. We'll come over and do a grill out or something. We can play.
Cool.
So, Nick, you got anything else?
Well, I was going to say, yeah, besides for disc golf, what else do you enjoy doing?
Yeah.
I love being outside. I love fishing. I like shoes. I like going to shoe stores with Jeff. We like doing that. I just like being on like the boat. I just love being outdoors. If I can be outside all day long, I will. I'm from northern Wisconsin. There's not too many people up there, so it's like if I'm having a chill day up in my hometown, I'm probably just like maybe go fish on the river and like go home, make a bonfire, have dinner, like just kind of like relax, jump in the lake, maybe go swimming, stuff like that. So pretty relaxed. Nothing too crazy. Just
nice.
Was there something?
Last question.
Was there something before disc golf? Like, how long have you been doing disc golf? I know that's such a like basic question on a disc golf interview, but like, was there something before disc golf that you enjoyed doing?
So I played regular golf before disc golf. I played baseball and I played basketball. So I was in 3 different sports growing up, and disc golf was kind of like I was starting to get good like junior, senior year of high school, and that's when I was still on the golf team. So I like had to make a decision like, yo, Dad, like I don't really want to play regular golf anymore. Like I kind of want to pursue disc golf, and he wasn't too thrilled with it at first, but I think now he's like, okay, maybe we should have let him off the golf team a little earlier, but yeah, and I started playing disc golf in 2010, so I think it was 4th grade summer is when I discovered it. I was just basically at playing baseball, Little League Park, and the local park just popped up a disc golf course, and I was just intrigued. I was like, this is cool. Like I have to try this. And my dad was like, oh, I used to play back in the day, and blah 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 blah. And I was like, cool. I'm gonna go downstairs and grab your old Bullet Stamp XD. Had no idea what it was, but now I know it was a Bullet Stamp XD. And I went out to the course and I started throwing it. So, and hooked from there.
Nice. There you go. Any specific goals you have for the year?
Just try to stay consistent. Keep grinding. I think the last 2 weeks, what's worked for me is like putting every night for, as long as till I'm comfortable. So just trying to stay consistent, stay grinding, and stay calm, relax, and just keep my eyes on the prize, basically.
All right. Where can the people in the world, where can they find you on social media? Where can they support you buying discs or whatever? Where can they find all that?
You can support me by buying my tour series Wasp at any of your local Discraft retailers, discraft.com, I believe. resistancedisc.com, any of the custom runs that come out there, those are very good for supporting me. I know we've had the Glow Z Zones come out, and then the Crystal Raptors. Expect more of those to come, and yeah, that's basically it.
Any sponsor shout outs?
Resistance Discs, Grip Equipment, and Discraft Disc Golf.
Cool. Well, Adam, we appreciate you getting all settled in and coming on the podcast tonight. We hope to have you again soon. And
I'm cutting off
me,
Nick.
I'll see you at Worlds.
I'm cutting you off, Nick. Is Jeff there in the RV with you?
He is. You guys want to see him?
Oh, he's got. Yeah. Yep, he's got to come at least sit.
He's got to make his appearance.
He probably won't be able to hear us, right? Yeah. He wants that.
What's up, boys?
Yeah, that's funny. I said Jeff won't be able to hear what we're saying about him. Now he's on camera and he's like, "What's going on?" We just had to say hi because people heard you originally in the background of the camera, like earlier on in the interview, and they're like, "Jeff Korn sighting." So,
Jones Gold. We're playing Jones Gold.
Jones Gold.
All right, we just had to see you to know that you were really there. Keep up the good work out there. You're traveling around with Adam, getting him to these events. He says he's feeling very comfortable. So good job, Jeff.
Do what I can, man. It was a good week for the RV crew last week. We had Ben Calloway also took top 10, grabbed a USDGC spot. So it's an awesome week when guys in the RV do stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. How can it not be? Well, anyways, boys, I'll see you in Utah. I hope you guys have a phenomenal DD Open, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate it. Safe travels. Good luck.
Peace.
All right. Bye.
Later.
All right, everybody. That was Adam Hammis. And at the very end there, Jeff Korns.
Jeff Korn sighting.
Yeah, Jeff, I just had to have him come on. I knew he was there. You know what stood out to me about that real quick is he just said he gets to where he goes, then he's like, he putts all night.
Yeah.
That goes back to my conversation earlier. And again, maybe I'm picking on Calvin, but I was very surprised to hear a top-level athlete like Calvin say, I don't spend time putting on the putting green. I just take the putts as they come during my round. That's obviously he's performing at such a high level, but I'm wondering if he felt like his putting wasn't where it wanted to be, which is what he said. Maybe that's spending that time. I don't know. I'm not him.
It might. And, after this week, he might do that. He might start practicing putting just a little bit more until he kind of gets back into that routine. But I'll tell you this for everyone out there, and this applied to me, doesn't apply to everyone else, but I used to not care for practice putting. I thought it was tedious, but I was never like a consistently great putter. I would have tournaments where I was putting very well, and then I'd have tournaments where, I was putting very poorly. So this last 4 or 5 months or whatever, I consistently started practice putting pretty much every single day. And it's now to a point where I actually really enjoy practice putting because I'm enjoying seeing the improvement that I've made. Like before, if I was hitting 6 out of 10 from 25 feet, now I'm hitting 9 out of 10 from 25 feet. And there's just such a good feeling of like seeing improvements in your game that putting, it's tedious, but it's so easy to practice, and it's such a fulfilling and like rewarding feeling when you notice yourself get better, like stepping up to tournaments, stepping up to a putt, and just knowing that this has a very, very solid chance of going in is a great feeling.
Yeah. Adam, and it was, I don't want to say slightly awkward. I mean, I've met so many of these players that we're interviewing. Slightly awkward to bring up old news, but I wanted to give him a platform where we could say he's not who some people think he is. He's obviously performed pretty well over the past year or so. People know he's decent at disc golf, but that was a significant media thing that came up at the end of the 2019 season. And I just wanted to be able to say, like, he is a great guy. And I'm excited to see him perform in putting compilation videos. Like, was it Hall of Fame Classic?
Is that awesome. Where it was? Yeah, Hall of Fame Classic is such a fun tournament to watch from 2 years ago because of just the highlights that he did on the putting green. It was insane.
Yeah, he even said, he's like, yeah, it's definitely, my strong suit. So
yeah,
great interviews out of them. Glad we were able to get them on the show tonight. So we're literally just going to jump into a handful of topics here and see how it plays out. We don't have any more guests lined up for the night. So this one's pretty straightforward, Nick. Player ratings. Actually, I say it's straightforward. I think everybody agrees with this, but maybe not the amateurs. Player ratings don't matter, but the trends they show do. Do you agree with that statement?
What do you mean by the trends they show do?
So like, if I'm I don't know, let me just pick a crazy number. My wildest dreams. I'm 1,050 rated player. That's my player rating. Brody's been big on this lately, and a lot of other players, Paul Ulibarri, all these people, like, hey, ratings don't matter, or my player rating doesn't matter. But if I'm 1,050 and the next month I'm 1,042, and then the next month I'm 1,035, and then the next month I'm 1,029, and we see 3 months in a row trending downward, can we use the player rating at that point to say there's a trend? At least, see what I'm saying? The rating of themselves, it doesn't tell them how they're going to perform any given weekend. But like the trends matter because it's showing us that they're continuing in a certain direction.
Yeah, it obviously shows the consistency of how a player is doing. So for Ricky right now, like he's averaging 1060 plus rated golf. Because of that, he's showing from a rating and just by winning tournaments that he is the best player in the world at the moment. I think ratings matter for certain people, but at the same time, I love what Paul Ulibarri says is that he cares about winning. So he'll go and play a local C tier. And if he wins it only averaging 10-10 golf, well, guess what? He still won a tournament. And that's where I've always looked at it. Like I want to get above 1,000 because that it looks better on paper if I go to talk to, like when I try to talk to disc golf and Discraft and potentially moving up a team, it looks better if I'm 1,000 rated with a few wins on the board. But I think when I get to a certain spot, like I just want to go out there and win tournaments. I love playing tournaments. I love competing, and I want to win. I don't want something like I could win an A tier versus incredible players if I'm a 1050 rated player and I only win it by averaging 1030. Like to me, that doesn't matter. Like I still got the win at an A tier against other phenomenal players.
Let me say this though, because you're not wrong. I agree with you. Wins are what matter. Wins are what matter for sure. We talk about ratings. I just want to separate these two topics again. We talk about ratings because I talk about round ratings. To me, round ratings are significantly different. It's how player ratings are made, but round ratings, I'll say this again, I've said this previous weeks. If I go out and shoot Maple Hill Reds, which is a beginner family friendly course, I go out, shoot Maple Hill Reds, and I come on the show next week and I say, guys, I shot 16 down. Do people celebrate with me or do they say, oh, that's really easy? How do you know if you've never played the course before? But if I come on and say, hey, I just shot 1,040 rated round, then everybody immediately knows that sounds really good. So the round ratings are one thing. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about specifically player ratings and just as a conversation back to you. I agree wins matter the most, but Nick, you as a player, if you are watching each month your rating go down, does it not concern you? Do you say ratings don't matter? Or do you think to yourself, my performance is trending the wrong way. I need to work harder. Like, does it do anything for you or is it literally nothing?
So I think for the top, let's say, top 5 players in the world. Let's take, Ricky, Eagle, Paul, Calvin, and then whoever you want to put at number 5. I don't really know who you even put there right now. But I think those players aren't really caring about their rating going up or down a few points, whether like Paul, say he goes down to 1050. All that is saying like, hey, I got to work on my game a little bit. Like it's not him being like, oh my God, I might go to 1049 rated this next update. But for the players who are 1020 and 1025 right now, for them to try to get up to that 1030, 1035 range or that 1035 to 1040 range, if they're going in the wrong direction, then you kind of see that player falling off and they might have the mentality of, well, if I'm not 1020 rated, then people aren't going to know like who I am, or they're not really going to care to see my name at the leaderboard because, I don't have that saying of, oh, I'm over 1020 rated. I think for some people, I think it matters to them a lot. But if you're a full-time touring professional disc golfer, I don't think ratings should be the, effect of your life, kind of your mental game. I think you just going out there and trying to play your best golf, and you might be in a slump, but for a month or two, your rating might go down. But at the same time, you might play the best 2 months of your life after that, and your rating goes up 10 points. I mean, what really matters? Like you go out there, you practice, and you get better.
It's an interesting topic. We don't need to beat a dead horse, but I think it's a measuring of past performance for sure. And I think that's the takeaway. It's not saying how you're going to perform, although stats can be indicators of how things are going to go. But again, I agree with you. I think Paul Macbeth goes down 3 points. What's the big deal? Like my son Hunter might be really bothered. He's not the best rated in the world. And I go, do you really think that matters? Like that he's not going to win because he's 3 points lower this month or whatever? Like, by the way, shout out to Paul and Ricky, tied at the top. It doesn't matter, everybody, but they are tied at the top. It is a pride thing. Oh, and wrapping this topic up, Nick, amateurs. This is why like the PDGA rating system works, because amateurs have bragging rights. For instance, I was able to come on the show and talk about my round ratings, which is cool. But also if I bump up to, let's say, like a 950 rated player, you better believe I'm proud to show that when I register in an AM event. Look at this 950 rated player.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think ratings, like for me, ratings are cool right now because, I'm obviously trying to get to a certain mark. I like playing rounds that are above that certain mark. And, like last weekend, I shot a 1037 rated round. And it felt great to shoot that. Like it felt good knowing I can go out there and I can shoot those kind of rounds. And I've had a lot of good rounds this year. My rating will hopefully trend in an upward direction. But I also like looking at rounds that are dropping off from last year. Like next month, I might be dropping off a 960 rated round. And then the only rounds coming onto my rating are 1,000 rated ones. So it's kind of a cool feeling to see, like, look at the improvements that I've made last year, going from, I would technically say my worst season in disc golf coming into this season so far to where it's been a very rewarding season. And we're still at the beginning of it. But yeah, there's definitely that feeling of like, I might sign up for a local tournament as a 991 rated player. And by chance, like this last one that I was at, I was the highest rated player. Granted, it was only one round C tier. That doesn't happen too often with competition getting better. But yeah, there's a cool feeling of saying like, oh, look at my rating going into this. But at the same time, my goal is to get above the 1,000 rated mark and then just keep pushing myself as a player from there. And yeah.
Yeah, so we can move on from that. I think it was just...
I think ratings are good and bad. For amateurs, just last thing. For amateurs, I like it to where there should be caps on what division that you can play in. Obviously, there's age-protected gaps, but talking about like, when should an intermediate player jump up into advanced, and when should an advanced player jump up into pro? So I like those areas of ratings.
Helpful. Yeah.
Because I think for a lot of people, let's say in like the female divisions, I think there's players who, have competed in the female rec division. They're just a little bit better than all them, so they complete in the intermediate. But then someone who normally plays advanced, there's no advanced women in that playing in that tournament. So then they jump down into the intermediate side of it. And I think there's just ways where, there should be rating caps on each division. I don't know what the magical number is for any of that. I've never really looked too much into it. Right there, I think ratings would be incredible, but it's not the end all kind of thing.
Hey, I don't think you read the chat, but that's what someone just said. Ratings are not the end all be all. But it's another important metric.
That was a saying. I couldn't remember the last part of that saying.
They said, but it's another important metric. This is Daniel, to show how you're playing, just like wins and money. For instance, that's a great point. To be able to say like, hey, this is how much money I've made. Does that mean you can't win more money or less money based off how much? No. But it does show you how they've played. It is another metric.
Agreed.
It's another metric.
Yeah, like I said, there are certain areas where I don't really care for the ratings. Like, I don't want it to be the most affected thing. Like, my mentality is looking like I don't like the feeling of at the end of the round being like, oh my God, what's my round rated? Is it rated above? Is it rated below? Like when I have more of an average round, obviously I know my rating's going to be above if I play well. I know it's going to be below if I play bad. But at the same time, I like going into a tournament with just saying, look, I like competing for the win. I don't care if I have to shoot 940 rated golf to get it or 1040 rated golf together. I just want to go into a tournament and compete for the win. That is why I go to them.
That's a good mindset, for sure. And I can tell you, as someone who is rated 936 right now, I'm not too concerned with my rate. I'm not trying to go be a professional either. So I'm more interested like, oh, what was that rated? But not with any real intent of caring. Like, oh, who cares? Like, I'm going to play as good as I play. So
it's obviously nice to see a rating go up in a positive direction, but it's not like for players like you where you're not trying to get onto that pro scene. A rating for you should say, oh, I'm 938 rated. That means I can technically play advanced, but if I'm not really feeling it, if I feel like my game's slipping downwards, you could play AM2 or whatever, intermediate.
And so I'd feel bad. I'd feel bad destroying and taking everybody's money. Just kidding.
Exactly. So that's where the cap should be. Like, let's say the cap is at 935 to where you cannot play below that anymore. You can only play advanced and pro now. So
yeah, that's interesting. So all right, moving on to the next topic here. And Nick and I did not discuss this. It's literally just going to be a reaction from Nick here. Just list out names of professionals that you feel like, and I'm using the word ooze, but I couldn't think of another word here. Pros that are oozing professionalism. Like, it's just like you look at them and you're like, they're demonstrating professional disc golf. And I don't necessarily mean talent, but let me put it to you. What does that mean to you? If you said someone was really representing the disc golf sport and it's such a professional way that like they epitomize professional.
One of the biggest things that I look at is how a player dresses. I have always been a huge fan and a huge advocate for people going out there and honestly looking preppy, like looking the part of being a professional disc golfer. And I think golf clothes are where I'm at with that, to where I just, I love it when people are dressed well. You don't have to be matching with like all Adidas, but like dressing in golf clothes, I think, has such a professional look, especially on the Pro Tour standards, because that's what we're talking about. That to me is something that I look for when I think, they're oozing professionalism. Someone who is active in the social media and not just posts, but actually interacts with their fans, interacts with people asking questions online, or, the content creation, responding to comments. And then someone who in person, like, does clinics, someone who represents their brand well. I think there are a lot of players, and there's way more than there was 5 years ago. I've definitely seen an upward direction of players dressing a hell of a lot better.
Can I just throw a name out there? Ben Calloway. Did you happen to see him on any coverage this past weekend? Discraft player.
Yeah.
And this is just to support your point. When you looked at him, you thought, like, I don't know, like ball golf came to my mind. Like, he looked the part, like, professional. For sure.
I'm pretty sure he actually is a really good ball golfer too. Like, okay. I think I remember him in 2019. We were all at Top Golf in Arizona, and I'm pretty sure he was like really nasty. And same with Adam Hannes. They're both really good at ball golf.
So I guess, that's just to support your point there. But you started going down another road there too, interacting with, fans and all that. I'm going to offer my perspective on it. I feel like, I'm going to say some names. Obviously, Paul McBeth, obviously. But the reason I say obviously is not because of the wins. It's a small percentage of the way how he dresses and cares about his appearance on the course. That's important. But I would say it's his composure, literal composure. Now, does he get upset on the course as an athlete? For sure. That's his passion flowing out. But I guess composure in the way that he conducts interviews. Just, he's not going out, and now I am not saying any names of this, but he's not going out after a tournament and partying, and he's not going out during tournament travels and just only having what would be considered a good time by many. Like, and I'm not saying good or bad on like if people drink or not, but like he's not doing that. He cares so much about his game, and I think it was Brian Earhart. I would consider Brian Earhart. There's another name, professional. I feel like, to me, there's this way you hold yourself. And I guess I'm looking at, it's really interesting. And the chat room's coming in with a lot of the people that they feel are professional. That's excellent. Keep sharing the names that come to your head. I feel like, though, and now people are going to wonder, I'm not coming out with a hot take on this one. I do not want to be that negative. In the top 10 and top 20, do we have players who are not taking this professionally enough? And one, they could and probably perform better, or two, they're not like treating it professionally enough, and it's kind of making a joke of our sport. Do we have players like that, Nick? Is it a big deal? Should our players that are in the top 20, at the very least, treat this at the highest level of professionalism?
Yeah. I mean, the players in the top 20 right now are full-time touring professionals. I don't think there's someone in the top 20 who's just casually jumping and flying out to a Pro Tour event here and there. I don't think we have a player like that at the moment. But yeah, I think every single player in the top 20 should be treating this as, I need to look the part, I need to be the part, and I need to play like the part of a professional athlete, because that's what these people are, and that's what they're striving to be, is the best professional athlete that they can be. And with that comes a lot of responsibility. And like you said, composure is definitely one of the biggest ones, especially on a disc golf course. How they compose themselves after a round, before the round, during the round. I think those are all incredible takes from it. And I think there are players who struggle with certain areas of that, and I think there are players who really excel at it.
So, Nick, I didn't want to give any names, but no, I'm kidding. In the top 20, what percentage? What percentage do you think are? Is there a percentage? If you had to say out of the top 20, I'm going to give a number, like, I'm just going to literally pick a hat out just based off how I'm feeling. 7 players that aren't treating it as professionally as they could. That's just my feeling, in the top 20 level even. And I'm not, nobody specific comes to mind.
I don't think there's that many. I don't think there's really anyone. There's not a player in the top 20 who I think doesn't treat it professionally at all. Like,
I'm not saying not at all.
They're charismatic. Yeah. They have great parts of their professionalism, but there might be one poor part. Like, and I'll bring them up Nothing against him. I think he's a phenomenal player, and I'd love to have him on the show soon because we've tried. But Matty Oram, I hate the sweatpants that he wears during the rounds, especially when he's on coverage. But that's a personal thing to me. He might play better in sweatpants, but I think they look unprofessional. And I think there's a pretty large majority of people who would agree with me. And there's obviously going to be people who disagree with me in that. But I'm not a fan of, look, what you do in your practice rounds and everything like that, by all means. But I think if you are that big of a professional, especially someone who is in, obviously he won a tournament, he got second place at a national tour. Those are chances of, say he gets an ace on camera with Joe Pro filming at the national tour. Okay, more than likely, because it's a national tour, that coverage is going to flip over to ESPN and maybe SportsCenter and jump on the top 10 or whatever. SportsCenter's casters are going to look at it and they're going to see 3 people potentially who are wearing incredible clothing and looking like, hey, this isn't just Frisbee golf anymore. This isn't just throwing discs in the woods. This is a national tour event. And then you're going to see the guy who threw it in a pair of sweatpants. And you're going to kind of lose all, potentially, not everyone, you're potentially going to lose all your kind of like, oh, well, I guess it's still just players going out and playing in the woods. I equate it to, because there's so many similarities between us and golf, I equate it to, look, I don't see at any of the majors that they're playing any players wearing sweatpants or non-nice looking shirts. I know there are different styles of shirts rather than polos, like what Tiger wears. I don't know exactly what you call those, but yeah, I just think dressing professionally is like one of my biggest things.
And I want to be very clear. I might come off as a negative person, but I didn't actually have anybody in my mind. I just thought the topic was warranted in a general sense, the sport being where it's at, the continued growth, the explosion, ESPN, everything. And just to go and say, oh, some of the illustrations you just gave are perfect examples where I'm not here to pick on anybody. The chat room is now starting to be like, this guy doesn't professional. This guy, I'm like, that's not.
Yeah. Let's not start calling everyone out because we all have different opinions on what we think is professional and
exactly.
Not. Obviously, the PDGA, it doesn't require you to wear golf pants during a national tour event. So you know what? All the power to Matt Oram at the moment to go out and wear what he feels is comfortable. And there are many other players. I'm not just singling out Matt. Matt's the only reason I said his name is because recently he was on coverage and I noticed it.
No, but it's a fair point. And as you said, everybody has a different perspective on that. And in fact, my perspective is probably different than yours. I might not feel as strongly about sweatpants, but like the way the individual treats it. So and I'm not going to say a name again because I'm not here to do that. But if this player who dresses a certain way or acts a certain way, if he is owning it, believing that he is being the best professional he can be, then I'm pretty cool with it. Like, I just want our pro athletes in this sport to take it so seriously that I use the word oozes, professionalism. Tiger Woods, I'm just saying, like, you don't have to be the best. And I think we have examples of that as well. Players in our sport who are not the best, but dress really well. Again, Ben Callaway. That was he showed up on coverage. There he was. Some other names that are getting shot out, on the FPO side, there are names as well. Just treat the sport at the high level. And we're seeing it trickle down into the AM side now, which is great. Mm-hmm. You were part of that, Nick. You were part of that.
Yeah, I was. And I mean, I think one big thing even for local tournaments, I've noticed people dressing way better. And to me, that's a really cool feeling. I've always been one to, in a sense, dress to impress and look good, feel good, play good kind of style. And it's really cool to see people actually start taking that kind of seriously, even at local C tiers. And at the same time, golf clothing is wicked comfortable. Like, I'm wearing a pair of golf shorts right now. And like, I love wearing golf clothing because of how comfortable it is. And that's just my take on it, I guess. I think one other thing to talk about professionalism is also using their respected platform to better the world. And my phone died, so I don't have this in our topics list.
You're going to the next one. You are.
Paul Macbeth doing the Paul Macbeth Foundation. Garrett Gerthy doing the Garrett Gerthy Children's Foundation with the double craft jerky and
very
everything
professional.
Like that. So that is such a huge thing. And I know like LeBron James has done so many different things, and there are just players, Kobe Bryant, they've all done these amazing things with the platform that they have. And just talking the disc golf side of it, I love what Paul and Garrett are doing. And I love that Paul had just recently announced with Jomez and Dynamic Discs and everyone like that they're actually going to Mexico. Don't remember the exact city. Matt, you still have that.
Yeah,
up.
let me
I'll let you take it.
Yeah, as we move on to that topic, literally just to wrap up the other one completely, someone said we should do like a black tie and a dress round. And the funny thing is, I actually saw Eric Oakley and Tina Oakley on Nantucket the day after their wedding. So long story short, I was on Nantucket, playing the Nantucket Open, and he played in his tux and she played in her wedding dress. So I've seen it. That doesn't necessarily mean most professional.
Yeah.
But so there was that. And anyways, and I was saying, you said you're wearing golf pants, and Skype makes it so I talk over you all the time, but I said, prove it. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
no. I'm kidding.
I can show you really quick. Nice.
Oh man.
Nice pair of white pants.
Okay. Someone was like, no, he's definitely not. Remember Big Germ calling? I'm not wearing pants.
I was gonna make a joke earlier. I was like, either I'm wearing pants or not. Like we did with the Foundation podcast, with the Grip Lock guys. We did our little, we were wearing suit ties and everything like that. And we were joking around because like Hunter, he didn't have a shirt tucked in. I'm over here and I didn't have like a shirt tucked in, or I was wearing my white shoes with nice pants and everything like that. So only our top halves, looked good. Everything else was just major casual.
Yeah, that's so funny.
So it's comfortable.
So you led into the next
shorts
topic.
Are wicked comfortable.
Yeah. You led into the next topic, and it's La Paz, if I'm saying that correctly, like LA, like La Paz, like Los Angeles, La Paz, probably more like that. And I had to do a little Google Maps on this. You know where it is? It's on the very, very tip of the California peninsula. So it's like the very tip of the California peninsula. So it's down farther than you can go, like as far as you can go in Mexico, but on that peninsula over there. You can tell I'm really good at geography when I say over there.
Yeah.
But
somewhere out west.
Paul had talked about being able to, and I saw, on his foundation page, being able to reconnect a little bit with his heritage that he hasn't really been able to or hasn't done. So that's cool for him. And he's going to be giving back through his foundation to have people in that location have an opportunity to play disc golf. Do we all think it's great? Disc golf is great. What are the benefits of it? Fun, companionship, camaraderie, competition, trying to better yourself. It's pretty cool. So you're not wrong. That's true professionalism, I think, to give back in that way. So here's the next topic. Casey White.
Mm-hmm.
All right. He gets his own topic. So here it is, Nick. At what point do we consider Casey White to be a top 20 or even top 10 player / performer on tour? At what point do we start doing that? Because here's his stats. These are the last 4 events: 5th place, 10th place, 8th place, 6th place. And here's his ratings averages: 1,044, 1,031, 1,036, 1,035 averages. His rating is top 100 in the world, but when do we consider him, Nick, as a top 20 or top 10 performer on tour? Like 4 events? How many events do we have to go before we say, yeah?
I mean, to be honest, right now, listing off those last 4 events, you can consider him a top 10 player. I mean, just straight up by how he's played in these events. And,
that's massive.
Well, no. I'm saying that's how we're looking at this event. For the last 4 of them,
I know
he's averaged in the top 10. And so going into the next event, I would put money saying he will get top 10. I don't know if he's playing Harmony Bends, or I don't know if he's playing DDO, but I mean, he's showing that he can compete in the woods. He's showing that he can compete on moderately wooded courses, and he's showing that he can compete on somewhat more open fairways, upshots. You saw it on coverage. He's a great putter. He's got good backhand, good forehand. You can sometimes say they're great, and he's putting it all together right now. So I think definitely, I would say he's absolutely a top 20 player at the moment. I think after Waco, he's definitely proven that. Top 10, he's obviously been finishing in the top 10. Is he going to do it? I would say I would put my money on the next event. He will get top 10 again, but there's also this chance at the moment.
Which event are you talking about?
I don't know if he's playing. Is he playing Harmony Bends? I'm not sure.
Oh
my
I
phone died, so I can't.
You just mean in general, whatever the next event is, like.
No. I'm saying like Mid America Open. If he's playing that, I would. I don't really know the courses too well, but
I'm gonna punch in his name here, and I'll tell you. But like, so
okay. Well, this is to kind of finish up my point right there. He's averaging top 10 in the last 4 events, but Casey's still at a point in his career to where like he missed cash at Waco. There still is a possibility that Casey misses cash at an event and at the next event. So top 20, I would say, yeah, he's definitely filling into that spot right now, but he's still at a point to where potentially he might not be. He's kind of teetering on that spot right now.
Is it so? Yeah. Is it tough. Just like, I don't know the right wording here. Is it a bubble? Did he find this bubble and he's just in it right now and it's going to pop? And it's like, I'm not going to say another name that's happened on tour, but like, is it, is he in this bubble? Is it going to pop, or is he here to stay? And that's kind of where this question came from. Top 20, top 10. At what point do we start counting him? Now, this is way too early, but at what point, Nick, do we start counting him into like the Kevin Jones, and I'm trying to think other players? Like, he's outperforming well-established names. Like, at what point do you put him in that, like, hey, I think he's a top 10 player? It's not yet.
I think when we consistently see it for more than just 5 events, let's say
6 events.
So when we see it, like if I look at Casey at the end of the 2021 season and I take all of his averages, put them together, and everything like that looks like it's in a positive direction, then there's a potential that I put him in my top 20. But like I said, I think he's still at a point right now to where he has more of a potential to kind of like fall off the leaderboard than to solidly climb up the leaderboard in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, I think even like disc golf's weird. Players are either playing great or they're playing bad. Like Kevin Jones, obviously, he's, won the Pro Tour championships. He's won Pro Tour events, but he's had a lackluster season so far. He's missed cash at a couple events, but then he comes out and shoots a 4th place finish because we know Kevin is that good of a player. He's someone that I put in my top 20. Right now, I don't really know if I put him in my top 10, kind of thinking of players off the top of my head. But with Casey, I'm stoked to see how he's playing right now. I'm not putting him in my top 20 in the world yet, but there is a big potential that he can jump up into that spot. You know what I mean?
He is rated, to put this out there, top 100 in the world by player rating. Mm-hmm. And I would just go out and say any sport in the world, I don't care what it is, top 100 is incredible. That's an achievement. I don't think it's 6 events, 7 events. I think we start going into when you start getting towards the latter half of the year, if he's still performing in that top, if he's in top 10, you can consider him that. If he's in top 20 throughout the rest of the year, then you consider him that. I think by the end of the year, last 3 events, we'll be able to say, we expect this from here on out because he's demonstrated it. So,
like we obviously, to kind of like put where a player's at, we need to see them play their full season. And I think one of the biggest examples of it is Ezra at Vegas. Absolutely dominated, got 2nd place, and just showed that like, holy crap, this kid's here to stay. But then hasn't really been following it up since. And so right now, like, where do I put Ezra in the top 10, the top 20? Obviously, I know the dude's super explosive. He's an incredible player, got a great backhand, forehand, solid putter, but he's not playing well right now. So
someone brought up a great name, Kyle Klein, for instance. Thanks to the chat room. Yeah. He last year, and this was obviously, it's called, what is, Paul has said this before, Macbeth, recency bias. Remember, Kyle towards the end of the year was really performing really well, to where I think recency bias told us, oh man, he's for sure a top 20 player, if not top 10.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I guess not. But is the potential there? That's not the question. The question is not, is the potential there?
No, exactly. The question is kind of like, is he at that point right now? My answer is no.
Right.
Let's talk about it again on episode 65.
Perfect. So yeah, I'm again, we do have ties to Casey here, but he totally deserved this topic. So congrats to him for even
absolutely
making it here.
I was stoked. I said it last week. I said, I'm really curious to see how Casey plays at this course, obviously with a little bit of a heater that he's on right now. And he absolutely fulfilled my expectations of it and some. I mean, to see him on the coverage, to see him shooting the same as all these incredible players in the world, it's a cool feeling.
He would have been lead card if it wasn't for his older PDGA number. Or not older, newer PDGA number.
Newer,
it's
higher.
Yeah, however you want to say it. So it's like, man, good job for him. All right, moving on. Final topic of the night. Mental game. So we talked about professionalism. This is also a part of a player's performance, is the mental game. How we talked to Brian Earhart about this. How important is the mental game? What is the mental game? But here's what I'm curious to know, and I'll tell you why this came up. It stemmed my thoughts thinking down this road. Paige Pierce, number one. And I'm going to say the other 5-time world champion, Paul McBeth. We are seeing, and to be very clear, and I'm going to preface this. I'm not saying anybody's washed up. I'm not saying they can't win. I'm not saying they're not performing well. I'm going to say this. They're not winning. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to say they're not winning, which some can say, well, that's if you're top 5, you're still excellent. I agree with that. Top 10, you're still excellent. But why aren't they winning? And that's why this question came up. Mental game. I think mental game is that like icing on the cake. It's the very top of you're so good, you're so talented. If you want to win, you want to beat Ricky Wysocki, you have to be able to perform at your highest level, plus your mental game has to be 100% focused. Like, like right on. I don't think I've ever played around like that, Nick. 100% focused. Like you can't be off. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, or at least your opinion on this. Paul McBeth Foundation. I know he has people managing that, but it is taking his mind. It is taking some of his time. Foundation Disc Golf. He owns a business. Now he has people working that. So I know it's not him directly. And then so again, the foundation, there's so many foundations, Paul McBeth Foundation and Foundation Disc Golf. Yeah. And I don't know what else he's got going on in his life. Signs a big deal. Obviously, like all I'm trying to say is if you're off by just even a notch, like the mental game is thinking of something else when it could have been thinking about prepping. Do you think that matters for the win in today's competition at the top pro level? Do you think it matters? Just that little tick of mental capacity.
Yeah, and I think it affects different players in different ways. Obviously, Paige came out with a post saying, she's thinking about the future. She's thinking about a ton of other things, and mentally that's hurting her disc golf game because she's not fully focused on it. And I think you might be able to say the same thing at Paul. The only reason that I'm kind of like hesitant to say that is because he's proven in the past to where like he might have a bad season, but he'll come back strong and like he'll come back playing great. And it might just be, hey, it's an off season kind of thing. But yeah, I definitely think, with all the different stuff that Paul has going on in his life, that definitely takes time out of his day. It takes time out of his practice round. It takes, if you feel like during a practice round, you're on your phone a lot in the sense of he's got things going on. He's got this, course getting set up in Mexico. He's got to figure out all the travel plans for that. Yeah, I definitely think it could be mentally draining. You may not be taking practice as serious. You may not be, practice putting at the RV kind of thing. So yeah, I think most definitely it can affect players. I think it could be affecting both of them. No doubt about it. I mean, it could be affecting him that he's got one of his friends living in his basement right now. I got no idea, but I think there's a ton of different.
I like that. You threw yourself under the bus, but
exactly.
I would even say
I think there's a ton of different things.
I used them as an example, but the conversation's much bigger than that. I guess I'm even saying to win an event at this point in the history of disc golf, do you have to be nearly, if not perfect, 100% on with your skills as well as your mental game? Because if your skills are at the top as you can be, but your mental game is off, is that the difference between someone else's being at the top? Again, Paul McBeth versus Ricky. I feel like if they're both playing their absolute best with the absolute best mental game they can have, I don't know who I pick. I feel like the advantage goes to whoever can have the stronger mental game if they're both playing as best as they can physically. It's just where we're at. You can't just have lackluster performances anymore. And I'm not.
That's an incredible thing. You have to play your absolute best to beat everyone right now. Like you have to play incredible to win, whether it's in the MPO division or the FPO division. And I really like that because it's not just, Paul is obviously this, tied for the highest rated player in the world. He's obviously playing great disc golf, but Ricky's just playing better, much better disc golf right now. And he's coming away with those wins in a higher fashion. And that's, Paul's not doing awful rounds. Like, yeah, he had a bad last round at Jonesboro, but he's not consistently playing bad rounds. Like Ricky is just playing incredible disc golf right now. And there are other players who are playing great disc golf, but Ricky at the moment is just playing great. And I think the only person kind of in second place to that at the moment is Calvin, who's also playing great disc golf, but has a couple things not going his way right now. And that's definitely on the putting green.
So, right. He might have a tremendous mental game. Maybe he doesn't have a care in the world. That can't be true. He's a person. He has a care in the world, but maybe he's able to set that aside while he does his work on the course. Maybe he's excellent at that. It seems like he is, but maybe his putting's off. And I'm just saying, it's so incredible at this point in the history of our sport. We're actually to this place where you do have to perform almost perfectly at both. Ricky Wysocki, 0 bogeys, 0 out of bounds, only birdies. Like, that's the only way you can do that is both mental and physical.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of that comes from the mentality of right now, Ricky's got all the confidence in the world at the moment. He's playing incredible disc golf. Within the 6 weeks of him playing these last tournaments, he won 3 of them. His putting percentage is phenomenal. Obviously, the OB rate and the bogey rate that he had at Jonesboro was absolute 0. So confidence and mentality, Ricky's just on a high compared to everyone else. I think if someone else was to get to that level of confidence and level of mentality that Ricky has, they'd be giving him a run for his money. But at the moment, Ricky's just, he's there. He's where he needs to be, especially after his 2020 season, I don't think was incredible. It wasn't, in his sense, he didn't have a lot of wins. But now this season, he's playing strong.
I'm a sports talk guy. I'm speculating. I want to be very clear. I couldn't do it. I'm just observing what I believe is you have to be at the top in both. And I don't need to keep repeating myself on that. And I think it's really cool to see what people are doing there. We've made it to the end of the show, Nick. I do want to just close out by saying the mental game at the first round of MVP. I saw some people in the chat tonight just saying you have to talk about MVP Amside. The first round of MP. I showed a video. If you go back to the beginning, guys, you can see it. I showed a video of the snow and the grass between the 2 days. Mental game had to be very strong. And that's probably another reason this came up for me. Nick, have you ever played on a card in a tournament where the mood and the vibe was just like not good? Like people were upset. Everything was negative. How did you play?
I mean, there are times where I've played bad and I was one of those people frustrated. And then there are times where even though someone else is playing, I can bring up a great time with it. In 2019, the David Stidham Memorial Tournament, there was a guy on my card who second round was not having a great time, but I was just out there playing disc golf and getting birdies and everything like that. And I ended up winning the tournament. So I think there are times where I don't think other people really affect me. It's pretty much my own self. Like I'm the only one to really blame. The only time this affects me, actually, I think that same year, I was playing on a card with someone who took forever to play. I'm a pretty quick player. I play with a lot of players who are pretty quick. Like I kind of step up, think about my shot, think about the wind. I'm pretty quick. I don't like to overthink things. And I think there are times where, yes, I should take a little bit more time. I think that will help. But there was a dude on my card years ago who was taking the full 30 seconds, if not more. And I remember the first 7 holes of the tournament on our card, I was either first to tee off or second to tee off, and he was always behind me. But then he got a birdie when I got a par, and then it just downward spiraled from there. And it was kind of like, you think he's about to putt, and then he, pump fakes you, and you're kind of just like, all right, dude, like, come on, let's play some disc golf. Like, we're holding everyone up. I remember that affected me back then, but I don't think that would affect me as much now. I kind of just am really focused on myself at the moment when it comes to playing disc golf. And if anything, I'm going to mentally hurt myself by getting frustrated to myself. So I got to work on that a little bit, but
yeah, I think from my perspective, what I was coming at with that question was I played, and this is going back, guys, it's going back a little ways, 2011 AM Worlds, 10 years ago. Yeah. And I was able to, in my pool, I should be clear about that. I was like in the B pool. There's like A, B, and C. There's enough players to go around. In the B pool, I was able to play the hot round that day because, and I attribute it to, I had to throw the shots, but I attribute it to being able to have a card where we were all laughing, lighthearted, meaning like leading up to the shots, then we were serious, but like it was just a very good vibe. And it just helps your mental place, especially as an amateur. I'm talking, at the pro level, they have to do their own things. But even Katrina, remember when we had, and I'm going to go back to the Katrina talk. Remember when we had Dave Fehlberg on and he talked about 2 different ways to have a mental game? He said, you can either be like, I think it was Ken Climo, and only think about your shot when you're throwing your shot. Otherwise, don't think about it until you're there. Then you have people who are like, I'm just going to be super serious the whole time, not talk the whole time, every minute of the round until it's over. Well, Katrina actually just said the other day, she's trying hard not to think about her shot until she gets to her shot. She's trying
she gets up to the shot. Yeah. And I really like that. I heard Dave Fehlberg say that actually before he was even on our podcast, talking about his mental game way back in the day. And he's like, mentally, he was just drained at the end of the round. Physically, he was tired. And Ken Klein was like, well, what do you think about during the round? And Dave was like, thinking about disc golf, thinking about the shots, thinking about the shot that just happened, thinking about the putt that I missed. And Ken's like, well, that's the difference between you and me. Because Kenny's like, look, if something bad happens, it happened. It's done. I can't change the past. But I can look forward to the future in the sense of I don't have to think about my next shot the second after I throw my shot that just happened. You wait till you get up to the shot, because on the tee pad, you might think, oh yeah, I'm parked. I'm probably only 5 feet away. And then you get up there and you're 25 feet. And it's like, oh, now I got to make a 25 footer when, I totally thought I was parked. And then your mentality is like, well, now I really need to make this. And yeah, I think especially for lower level pros and, people who are really trying to make it out on tour, if your mental game is strong, you are obviously going to succeed very well. Because I think one of the biggest struggles for players on tour right now is whether or not they are cashing, and this is some players, not all of them, but whether or not they are cashing at certain events. If you don't have sponsors fully backing you, getting from event to event, it's a stressful world of like, man, that $350 for last cash or $400 for last cash, like that's helping out a lot, actually. I mean, take it from me, for Vegas is an expensive trip as it is. Getting that extra $400 at the end of the week was like a huge confidence booster, and like, hey, that really helped me out for what, kind of went on for the weekend kind of thing.
Remember we said that about Haley when she won 20 grand. We said, this could really be something where you're able to take that mental portion of your travel and lifestyle and get rid of that stress to where now you can focus, just like with Adam Hammis that we had on the show.
Yeah.
I'm able to tour around in an RV that someone else is driving. Like, the mental game is so large, and it takes part of, like, Haley King. She had stuff going on off the course that she told us, trying to forget about and work on to not bring it onto the course. Like, mental game is so huge that I feel like even when you're on the course, like trying like to have a good mental game, that's part of the problem. Is like you're like, okay, don't think that, like, you somehow have to work on this. And we should have Seth Muncie on. He was pretty good about that too.
It was,
We should have Seth Muncie on, Brian Earhart, Dave Felber, Katrina Allen.
Just talking about the mental. Yeah, who do we think has the best parts, or like who's struggling to improve their mental game?
Have a round table where it's like, you have to work on this off the course. So that way, when you're on the course, you're not working on it. Anyways, that's my take on it.
One of the, I'll kind of cap off my final thoughts on this, is one of my favorite things that Seth Muncie has said to me, and he even said it to me at Waco again, was last year I was super frustrated with how I played disc golf, but I wasn't able to practice disc golf a lot. I wasn't able to play a ton of tournaments because of COVID and everything like that. And it was just a mentally frustrating year. And so when I would go out to an event and play bad, he was like, pretty much, dude, you don't have a right. Like, are you out there practicing every single day? Are you practicing for 8 hours a day? He's like, you don't have a right to get that mad at yourself. You can be a little annoyed that you're not playing great or you're not playing as well as you did last year. But at the same time, if I'm not putting in the effort that I did in 2019 as I did in 2020, like, obviously I'm going to have a crap year. So that was awesome, just in the sense of, if you're not out there practicing and grinding and everything like that, you don't really have a right to, if you shoot below your rating, it sucks, but like, that was bound to happen. But players who are out there grinding every single day, they kind of have that right to be frustrated when potentially things aren't going their way. But anyways, mental game, yeah, it's super tough to learn how to do it well and kind of have a positive mindset going through everything. Because there's struggles in the real life. Outside of disc golf, there are obviously struggles. You might have something going on personally with your family, friends, whatever. But sometimes everything's just clicking, and I feel like that's where your mental game is going to be at its highest.
For sure. Yeah, I was just thinking about a whole bunch of things. I have my own mental game going on right now, trying to produce a show, talk about a show, a million things. Yep. So, Nick, we have the events coming up, Mid-America Open. It's not that huge of a thing where we're like, oh, we're super excited about it, but it is an event. And then after that, a big event, the DDO, formerly GBO, Glass Blown Open, now Dynamic Disc Open, humongous event, 2 courses.
I love that name, Glass Blown Open.
Yeah, too bad. I know the marketing thing, but it is what it is. All right, let's close this out, Nick. We're at the end of the show.
Well, I guess I'll say it one more time. Please, everyone, go on foundationdisc.com. You can actually get the new Nick and Matt Show hats. They come in white, black, and navy blue. They're super comfortable. They're, just a mesh back, snap back. I love wearing it. I'm wearing it every day out on the course now. Also, they have Nick and Matt Show shirts. So if you want these massive characteristics of Matt and I, you can go on, check it out, foundationdisc.com. But anyways, please go on, like, subscribe, comment, turn on the post notifications, check out whenever we are going live, 7 p.m. every single Monday, and check out all the favorite podcast platforms. We're on all of those. Tell someone you love them this week, and we'll catch you in the next one.
That's right, Nick. You're awesome.
Appreciate it.
The Nick and Matt Show, a disc golf podcast designed for you, the disc golfer. Find the Nick and Matt Show on your favorite podcast platforms or stream us live exclusively on the Foundation Podcast's YouTube channel.